The Lord of the Rings is my favorite series of all time. They're my favorite movies, my favorite books. I love all things Tolkien and love all things Middle-earth. So, a few years ago when I found out that Amazon got the television rights to Lord of the Rings, I was pretty excited to see what type of series they were going to be making. And now, with the announcement that came this week, in the title The Rings of Power, we kind of know where they want to go. And I have a list of desires that I would love to see this show accomplish, and if they can, I believe it'll be something that old-time fans will love and will probably be able to bring in new audience members as well. So let's get into it and talk about what I think this show could do to be something very good. Desire number 1. This is the most important and foundational thing when adapting any author's work. But there needs to be respect and reverence for J.R.R. Tolkien. The Lord of the Rings is one of the most recognizable intellectual properties in the entire world, with a fan base who understands and knows Middle-earth pretty well. We've had decades upon decades to be able to study it and nerd out about all things Tolkien. So there needs to be respect for the man who created the world that is being adapted. And while I find that it is very fascinating to go into journeys in the Second Age of Middle-earth, seeing the story about how Sauron rose to power, the rings were created, and seeing Numenor on screen, this is all exciting, but it needs to be done with reverence and respect for who Tolkien is, and that means adapting the work as a heroic mythology, embracing the timeless themes that have showed up in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and doing so in such a way that feels historical and believable. Desire number 2. This branches off of number 1. Tolkien's Middle-earth is not George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. There are some concerns I have from the fact that this show tried to bring in an intimacy coordinator, and I don't know what that means or where it's going, but Lord of the Rings is not Game of Thrones. It's a very different type of world, a different type of storytelling, and ever since Game of Thrones went off air, there is a void that is desirable to fill, and I feel like Amazon wants to do that with this series, but being grim, dark, and trying to get that shock value type of entertainment that Game of Thrones brought is not what a lot of Lord of the Rings fans are looking for, and it just doesn't feel like something that Tolkien would make. Desire number 3, believable visuals. One of the most incredible accomplishments that Peter Jackson's films were able to do was to make a world that felt grounded and believable, because it felt like something that if you went far back in history, it might have existed. Even though it would be lost to battle and war and transformed over time, you feel like you could go to the Shire or you could go to Gondor, and that place could have actually existed. And it was done with tender love and care in such a way where it always felt that it was real. It never felt fake. It never had that overly CGI feeling to it. Yeah, there were those Hobbit films, Goblin Town, but we're going to try and forget about that. But the original 3 films that Jackson made looked great, and I hope that this show can do the same. They're spending a lot of money on it. There is a big budget. They're kind of starting from scratch from what I can find, and I hope that they can set the bar extremely high and go to where this show and this source material really deserves for it to go. Desire number 4, stick to timeless themes. See, something that makes Tolkien's work so great is that the themes within it are timeless. Heroic sacrifice, the temptation of power, things of that nature. Those are relatable themes that people will relate to now and forever, because it's just something that is contained within the human heart. We all can relate to the fact of wanting to be a hero, and we also can all relate to the fact of being tempted to do things for personal gain. And that is the strength within Tolkien's storytelling. Now, there's going to be a temptation to make something that fits into modern sensibilities. And if it's done in a very heavy-handed way, it's going to feel dissatisfying and somewhat distasteful for a lot of longtime fans and newcomers as well, because you're trying to make something that's beloved into your own as a showrunner or a creator, and honestly, with something like Middle-earth, that's not the place for it. Desire number 5, the showrunners are diamonds in the rough. It's hard to have a very successful television series, whether it's on network or streaming. telling good stories is a tough thing to do. Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne, the showrunners of the show, don't really have much of a resume that can be found out about on the internet. So this is really their first major project, and we're going to find out if these guys have talent or if they somehow got the job and were unqualified. I'm hoping with the amount of money that Amazon is throwing at this, that they are extremely talented, they have a wonderful vision, and are going to be able to fulfill the tall task of adapting Tolkien's Second Age histories into some type of fulfilling and entertaining narrative prose. It's going to be a tough mission. I'll be rooting for them, but it'll be quite evident very early on if these weren't the guys for the job. Desire number 6. We're going to new places in Middle-earth. Now, this is something that's nearly guaranteed. We're within the Second Age, and we're getting different types of stories than were told in Peter Jackson's adaptations of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We're going to be going to places that don't even exist within that framework of the story, and it's going to be pretty neat, and I hope that they're able to create places that look wonderful and we want to go, and we're just as excited about them as we were about the Shire, Gondor, Rohan, Mordor, all the places that we've come to know and love, or in the case of Mordor, hate throughout the Lord of the Rings tales, and I look forward for more people finding out new places and new adventures within Middle-earth. Desire number 7, and my final desire, is that hype will be around Middle-earth once again. People will get into the books, people will get into some of the extended mythology that Tolkien's written, and society will be excited about the world that Tolkien's crafted again. People will watch the Peter Jackson films again, maybe give The Hobbit a second chance, even though it's still not very good. But that is going to be predicated on whether or not this show is good. And I really hope that it is good because Amazon is spending a lot of money on it. Supposedly, they're putting a ton of effort into it. And this is something that I think could really get storytelling back on track. No longer alienating longtime fans of something that they've grown up loving, but producing something that fans who've loved Lord of the Rings their whole entire life are going to enjoy this series as well. I hope that it's great. I hope that it is something we can all enjoy. But I want to know, what do you think? Tell me in the comments down below, what do you really want to see out of the Lord of the Rings series? The Rings of Power is the title, and virtually that's all we know about it at this point. What are you looking forward to most? What are you most concerned about? Let me know. I will be here talking about Lord of the Rings a ton. Look forward to talking to you more. Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you next time on Parallel Quest. Bye-bye.